For Jimmy Garoppolo,
Yeah.
his new deal pays out $6.5 million in fully guaranteed base salary, $19.12 million less than what he would have made. Now, the easy response is he wouldn't have made it. They were going to cut him. They were never going to keep him around 1 week at a time. I thought there was a chance they would let the salary become fully guaranteed and just pay him $1.42 million per week, holding out the possibility of a quarterback getting injured elsewhere, or Trey Lance being the guy who gets injured, or Trey Lance being the guy who just completely craps the bag and or down his leg. But that's a big price to pay. And actually, someone explained to me last night, and I hadn't thought of this, even though the salary doesn't fully guarantee until September 10 at 4 p.m. Eastern, as of next week, they owe him week 1. They owe him $1.42 million.
Right.
So there was another deadline in there that I had missed. I set out the deadlines over the weekend. As of Monday, he does have $1.42 million in hand, earned.
Labor Day.
You're on the roster.
Labor Day.
You're on the roster heading into week 1. It's actually Tuesday, I think, when you earn your paycheck for that week, even if the rest of it isn't guaranteed at that point. So they were a week away thereabouts from owing him minimum $1.42 million. And I say that because, 4 times that is what they got him for the whole year now. That's not a bad deal. And I have to wonder, Don Yee, couldn't you got the guy a little bit more than $6.5 million under the circumstances? And this all comes down to, and Chris, they have used this against him. I've said this all offseason long. They have a full and complete read on his personality, which includes, on one hand, ghosting everyone, not returning phone calls and texts, but it also includes a very strong desire to never rock the boat. He doesn't like confrontation, like George McFly. He doesn't do well with confrontation, so he just said, okay. They offer him $6.5 million. Hey, Jimmy, you're taking a $19.12 million haircut. You okay with that? Yeah, okay. Sure, okay. And they again, by playing it out the way they did, they enhanced the opportunity and the possibility he was going to agree with it. But they've got this guy pegged. They knew he was going to take it. They wouldn't have offered it if they didn't know he was going to take it.
Yeah.
They got him for $6.5 million for the full year, which is, somebody said he's going to be the highest paid backup quarterback. There's backup quarterbacks out there making more than $6.5 million.
Yes.
He's got to play to make some of the rest. There's $9 million more, up to $9 million more in roster bonuses and playing time incentives, which you got to be on the field. You got to be in uniform. That's the next question. When do we see him in uniform? When is for week 1?
Well,
is he just guy who stays home, or is he guy who's standing there in number 10?
Well,
ready to go.
That's where I think, you talk about the deadline for next Tuesday with the money. I also think there was a deadline in their brains going, after what we saw this last weekend with Trey Lance, we got to get him out here and get him practicing. He's got to take some reps. I think that was the other thing that I came to. Like, they got to do it now because, you've been talking about the whole Steve Young, Joe Montana thing. Well, Steve Young's been on the sideline, not practicing. So he needs to get out there. I know he's Jimmy G and he knows the offense, but I don't care who you are, like we talk about. You got to get some reps and get playing here in case they need him early on in the year. So I would think that was part of the process, too, to okay, so let's stop this on-the-side training. We got to get him practicing and ready to go in case something does happen to Trey Lance, or if Trey Lance doesn't play well, we can lean on Jimmy G. And I think that was probably the big reason there. And then when you talk about the money aspect of, it's late in the game. There's not a lot of great options. Maybe, I don't know. Again, I don't know who he could have squeezed for more money right now. But he certainly wasn't going to find a team that has the talent and then know the system and all those type of things that he does in San Francisco. And I think you're right. I think Shanahan and company know who they're dealing with. They know the man. Shanahan's a great people person. That's why he salvaged the Deebo Samuel situation when we all thought it was all gone. And also, I think with Jimmy G, Mike, this is it's a huge haircut, like you said. He's losing a lot of money. There's no question. But again, there's no guarantee he was going to make much more than this anywhere else, be in this situation. And I think ultimately the big play for the big money is for 2023, excuse me. That's where I think the focus for him and Don Yee has got to be to think about, hey, this year's weird. It's a little messed up. We're going to have to take some lumps. But how can we set it up best to where when it becomes free agency next year, people go, damn, we want Jimmy G and we're willing to pay him $30 million a year. We're going to do it. And I think he's in the spot to do that here with the 49ers. And I think that's ultimately, one of the reasons, too, why he'll take this haircut to $6.5 million.
And that's, again, where the bulk of the criticism currently comes from, that Jimmy Garoppolo and or Don Yee failed to have a strategy that would have gotten him to the market sooner. Because if you say from the get-go of training camp, I'm not going along with this, gee, I just have a free membership at your gym, which is basically what it was for a month.
Right.
You just come up and work out whenever you feel like it, and you're never going to be around the team, and just stay in shape and keep throwing, and you can use all our facilities, but it's just a matter of time before you're gone. If he had insisted on something more, if he had pushed the limits of his rights under the CBA, they may have just thrown their hands in the air.
Yeah, maybe.
Cut him at that point.
Right.
And then he's got more opportunity. But see, I think that he was probably humbled and chagrined by the fact that no one was calling to trade for him.
And he wasn't healthy, right?
And I'd like to think that Don Yee's been around enough that he got on the phone with people saying, hypothetically, because it would be tampering. But hypothetically, in the event that I would have a quarterback who is in an unusual situation where he's in the final year of his contract and he's been the starter and he went to a Super Bowl and almost went to another, hypothetically, and he's being supplanted by a first-rounder last year that was acquired with 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick, hypothetically, what would you, if I could get him cut, hypothetically, what would you pay him? Those conversations happen all the time. These deals just don't spontaneously fall out of the sky. The plane gets landed very carefully. And there must have been nothing out there. Houston, what would you do? We're fine with Davis Mills. Seattle, hey, if I can get him cut, Geno Smith, Drew Lock, Jimmy Garoppolo, you want to make it a 3-man competition? What would you pay? And either it wasn't enough or nothing at all. And so maybe that's why he stayed the course. Because, again, if someone does suffer a season-ending injury, if Zach Wilson's injury, for example, had been a torn ACL and not, fortunately for him and the Jets, something far less than that when he had the non-contact injury in the preseason, and that had opened the door, right? Then you get far closer to 24.2 than $6 million.
Right.
And so I think that's one of the reasons why they ultimately went along. He knew there wasn't anything out there. And maybe that's ultimately why he said, I'm taking the $6.5 million. As you said yesterday, why go play for a crappy team and you haven't had a chance to prepare yourself? You undermine what otherwise was your closing argument.
Exactly.
The worst case scenario for him is he doesn't play at all this year. Well, I mean, the worst case scenario is he gets a chance to play and he's horrible, but let's assume that won't happen.
Yeah.
Because I think Kyle Shanahan will get him to where he was last year.
Yeah.
If he didn't play at all this year, hey, my hay's in the barn.
Yeah, that's right.
Or he does play and he plays well and he enhances his case for free agency next year. And that's the most important term of this deal. No tag next year.
Right.
He hits the open market. So even if they, and who knows what's going to happen, get to the Super Bowl with him, win the Super Bowl with him, they can't do a damn thing about keeping him off the open market. And that's the ultimate best-case scenario for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's all about that. Yeah, you're right. Well, why would you want to go somewhere and, some bad team and then play and not know the offense but be thrust into action and not, necessarily be on your top of your game? And then, it hurts your value in 2023 when you're a free agent. And then it also, now I can see why the 49ers got rid of him. And it would add fuel to the fire. So here he is in a great spot. And, I think the other aspect here, too, is a little like we talked about yesterday is, I know he has the no trade clause, right, which means nothing for a quarterback. And I saw you wrote that yesterday. You're right. It means nothing. If a quarterback is about to get traded for.
Who? He got a no trade clause.
Yeah.
Who? How many times do we have to say, and I'm not talking to the fans out there.
Yeah.
The reason the fans don't understand it, there are so many of our colleagues in the media who don't understand that it's meaningless. You're not going to trade for a quarterback who doesn't want to play for you.
Exactly.
That's why Carson Wentz wasn't a Bear last year. The Bears got wind of the fact that he wasn't interested. We're not going to force a guy to come play here if he doesn't want to be here.
Right.
Because it's not like any other position where you say tough shit.
Yeah.
You want to get paid, you got to show up. You need somebody who is all in all the time to be your starting quarterback. And if another team decides they need Jimmy G and he doesn't want to be there, they're not giving value to the 49ers to get a guy who doesn't want to be there. With or without a no-trade clause.
Exactly
anyway,
right.
sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
But how many times do we have to say
I mean, almost every time,
it?
I feel like. I know. Yeah, it doesn't even matter for quarterbacks. It's almost just star players in general. If you're a star player, they have a no-trade clause. No, I don't care who it is. I mean, if it's like, we can go back to Jalen Ramsey to the Rams. If he at that time was like, I don't want to play for the Rams, that would have ended the deal. The Rams were going to be like, wait, yeah,
we don't want him.
We're going to trade all these
picks plus for a guy that doesn't want to be here.
Exactly. So that's star players have a no-trade clause built into their life already. But I will say, if we get to, because of the new contract, and we get to week 5 or 6, and again, Trey Lance is playing really good football, and they're starting to feel good about what he's doing. And maybe they feel even a little bit better about Nate Sudfeld as a backup, at that point of the year. And maybe the injury does happen to some team that's like, whoa, we're damn good. We think we're Super Bowl-ish or whatever. Now you got real leverage in a trade with a guy like Jimmy G. And again, that's going to be risky. Do you want to risk that insurance or your own team? But if Shanahan and Lynch feel like they're in the right spot there with their team, they might do that. And that's going to make it a lot easier to get, a big-time pick from a team because of that situation. So I think that's another positive, at least from the 49ers angle in this whole equation.
And Garoppolo gets to go to a place where he thinks the table is set for him to be successful.
Right.
And he gets more money because he starts unlocking the roster bonuses and playing time incentives.
Exactly.
Because he'll actually be playing. And even after week 8, the Tuesday after week 8, when the trade deadline comes and goes, there could still be a little bit of a negotiation between the 49ers and Garoppolo to wiggle free because they're just saving money at that point. If they know Lance is the guy and they're comfortable with Sudfeld and or Purdy, although Purdy may not be long for the 49ers now that they're keeping Jimmy G, but if they're comfortable with their situation after the trade deadline, it's just simply a matter of Jimmy Garoppolo waiving his right to ongoing compensation. They save some money. He's going to be gone anyway after the season. We can let him go somewhere else. And you know what? Hopefully, if he has the opportunity post-trade deadline to do that, they won't just stubbornly squat on his contract, and they'll wish him well and let him go, assuming they've got the Trey Lance situation taken care of. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.